Well, welcome everybody. My name is Matt Gerber. I'm the executive director of the Diamond Allegiance. Really excited for this interview today. I've got Lenny Roberts, owner of the original Florida Pokers, here with me today. Lenny is obviously the owner of one of the top and most historic programs in the state of Florida and in the country. Newest member of the Diamond Allegiance, and excited today to join Lenny and to talk about his program. Lenny, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thrilled to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right in, and this question might actually take longer than many, because of the deep roots that the Florida Pokers program has. But tell me the story about your program. When and how did it start, and kind of the evolution to where you all are today.
Yeah, this one might take a little bit, but this goes back to, we were a baseball family growing up. My dad coached me in Little League through 12. And then at 12, he let me go and went back and coached my brother all the way up until he into American Legion. And then back in 1990 is when he started doing American Legion baseball. And at that point, we were Coral Springs post 178. We had kids from three high schools: Terravella, Coral Springs High School, and Piper High School. And that was limitations at that point on American Legion, was you can only draw from three high schools and a certain population of kids. And but my dad was, a big baseball guy. He wanted to see people competing at the highest level. I went on to coach college basketball, where at that time I was working with the Ohio State basketball team. And he got to see what, like, a college program, how they got to run things and do things. And even though he played baseball at Ohio State, this was all kind of the new era of college sports and what these kids were going to be wanting to get into through coaching my brother. And he started taking a group of high school kids around the country, not knowing what he was getting himself into. He took American Legion team to Euclid, Ohio. He took them to different places around the country, and then started going to some really big tournaments about 3 or 4 years in Memphis, where the Memphis Tigers were based out of. And if you know anything about travel baseball, at that point, when my dad was doing it, they were really in the Southeast, two really big programs. And that one was East Cobb, the East Cobb Yankees with James Beavers, and the Memphis Tigers with Keith Hagan. And those were the two big players at that time. So we took this American Legion team. We thought we were really good. We went up there to play and went 0-7. Came back. It came back, and my dad was like, "What the heck just happened to us?" But while we were up there, we kind of started talking to other teams, and a team from Sugar Land, Texas, outside of Houston, had a recruiting budget of $100,000 a summer. Was going to find the best players they can find. They showed up every day with different uniforms on a chartered bus. And here we came with 2 jerseys, 1 pair of pants, and got our rear ends handed to us. So my dad had a learning curve real quick that there was life outside of Florida, and there was other ways to do this. And he came back, and this was 1995, now 5 years into this. And at the end of that summer, he dismantled American Legion and decided to go with Connie Mack. And Connie Mack, which was affiliated with AABC at the time, you could take your players from anywhere.
Yeah.
And he started talking to Florida Atlantic, which was Kevin Cooney at the time, and John McCormick, who's still there. And then Nova Southeastern was Sonny Hansley, who was running the program. And those two coaches really helped guide my dad into, where this thing could go. So we ended up with 2 home fields, the FAU Stadium and Nova University at the time, wasn't even Nova Southeastern yet. And we went to become a Connie Mack team, which he started drawing the best players from Hialeah to Vero Beach to play 80 games in 80 days during the summer, and took those kids to go play at the Sky Dome, to Notre Dame, to Indiana, to wherever, Georgia Tech, on campus, and became, he changed travel baseball in South Florida forever. It'll never go back to what it was before then. And, he was the pioneer that saw this, where this was going, and he went out and did it.
Yeah, there's zero doubt about that. And as someone that grew up during that time, me personally, right, I was on the first Scorpions team in 1995, and I can remember back then, fearing the Florida Pokers, right? And there's no doubt that your dad and then I think Sal with the Scorpions were kind of the trend centers down here in our state, and so you've been able to see it from its infancy, obviously, to what it is now. And we'll talk a little bit more as we go through this today about where the Pokers are today and what the plans are going forward. But
Yeah.
just an incredible story of true grassroots being part of this ecosystem um, since the very beginning, and have seen it from where it started to where it is now, and then hopefully part of a group here that is going to chart its future. So um, next question for you, Lenny. If you could pick one word to describe your program's identity, what would it be? And then as the owner, how do you try to bear that out on a daily basis?
Great question. And sat here and I read that question before. I was going, man, what's the one word that describes us? And kept thinking of things. Asked my son Caleb. He's having trouble coming up with the word. Asked a couple other guys, and success, grit, all these things started coming out. And to me, it came back to one simple word, and it's what the first word of our name is today, and it's called original. And it means a couple different things to me. It means, one, that we were the original team that started travel baseball the way it should be back in 1990, and when we transitioned into the Pokers. So one is just being the first. But the other, is for 35 years, we've stood the test of time and stuck to the same mission statement that my dad originally came up with. And that was to provide a serious place for student athletes to play the most competitive schedule possible and to help as many kids go off to earn a degree through the game of baseball. And that's all we've lived by for 35 years. Now, what all fell into there? Teaching these kids hard work, discipline, structure, fundamentals, looking someone in the eye, overcoming adversity. All those things fell into what the mission statement was laid out to do, to push these kids to play at levels they never thought were possible, put them into the most difficult situations and see what they were made of. And all that comes back to where his vision was. That's what he wanted to provide. And we're not in it for the parents. We're in it for these kids. And I could tell you, we've made an all-star team of kids that have never been able to survive here that would probably beat us. But it's also the reason that we could take kids that we might not be the most talented team across the country, but it's the reason why for a program that has not been for profit, that's been for the real grassroots, to win the PG World Series at 14U, to win underclass last year, to be in the semifinals and be 5 strikes away from winning Jupiter with kids from a local area that we're not win at all costs. That goes back to practicing, developing, and doing all those basic things that winning teams do. And to me, that, to original means, we've never left our mission statement.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is not only in your name, but Lenny, but I think for those in the community, that when the Pokers show up, you know exactly what you're getting, and that's couldn't be more true.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I go, we may not win the game, but by God, you're going to know you were in for one. You know you're going to be in for a battle, and it was going to be one hell of a baseball game.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. Kind of the second part of that question is like, how do you guys bear that out? How do you make that part of the culture of what you're doing, especially this day and age where, it is tougher and tougher generally, right, to practice and to do those things with your players at a high level. So what do you guys do? What if I'm coming to play for the Florida Pokers, and we were talking offline before we started this call about me being a dad that has a son that's starting to play. If I came to you and said, "Hey, Lenny, I want my kid to play for you," like what would that mean, and what would that kid get?
That kid's going to get our best effort on and off the field. I mean, we're here to develop players and people, not just the player. It's got to be about the person as well. But it's about the coaches that we bring in here. They have to know what we're about. They have to understand. They have to buy into what we're teaching. And we're not coaches. And I've always said it. We're teachers. We're going to teach the game of life. We're going to teach the game of baseball. And that's what you're signing up for. And we tell you, look, playing time's not going to be equal here. If you want equal, go play Little League or go play on another team. I will promise you, your kid's going to get coached hard. He's going to get coached fair. Playing time will not be equal, but development will be equal. Development of the person and development of the player, because our practices from the youth division are designed to be treated like camp with station work and fundamentals. And then as you get to the older kids, I mean, we have the best high school coach in the country running our program as director of baseball, and Todd Fitzgerald. There is no one better. He could probably be one of the top Division I coaches in college baseball if he wanted to take a job there. So everyone kind of follows his lead, but we demand our coaches teach. And there's things we do within the program about holding them accountable. We have an attitude for gratitude that we teach these kids, especially when you see our teams 14 through all the way down. Our kids go over to the fence and talk to the parents after every game. It's important that they need to know that someone brought them here. Someone helped provide for them to get there. So it's our way of getting these kids in front of the parents about public speaking, talk about getting up in front of a group and having something to say of whatever's on their mind. We don't tell them what to say. And usually the first time it's about 3 words that they say, thanks for coming and supporting us. Yeah. And by the second and third time around, we go number order around. After each game, just one person talks, but by about midway through the year, those talks are now like 3 minutes long, and these kids are getting more comfortable, but that's developing the person after we just played the game. So love that. I would tell you, your kid's going to get developed on and off the field, and we're going to go compete at the highest level.
I love it. Love it. So you mentioned the Todd father, right? I might have just given him a new name, but one of the Coach Fitzgerald, obviously, like you said, one of the if not the best high school coach in the country as part of your program. Who are some of the other people that are part of the program that are important to the kind of everyday, and what roles do they serve?
Yeah, you start with Fitz. I mean, as we just talked about, I mean, he spent 10 years, he's my dad's right-hand guy, calling pitches for him and helping run the program for 10 years. So he understood what we were doing here. He understands what these coaches would need to do. Vaughn Sturzbach, he's my COO, right-hand guy running this thing every day. We both have full-time jobs, and my wife says we talk 8 times a day, but really it's one conversation that we get cut off from that keeps going.
Exactly.
But he's my sounding board. He played 3 years for my dad and for Fitz. He understood what the program was for. He went to UCF, played there, and pitched for the Angels. Rob Giorgio is another one that played. We have 7 former players that played for my dad back coaching.
That's great.
In the program, which they recognized what we've been doing and all that, and wanted to come back here to coach. See who else is in here. Justin Williams, he's one of our 12U coaches, but he is helping me with all this back end stuff right now, and understands where this train is going. Because the train has left the station at this point. Yep. It kind of helps when you have to write that first check, and now we don't have to. Not going backwards here. So yeah, he's been helping steer the ship in the right direction, keeping us organized to be able to execute tryouts and everything that we're doing here for the first time as a business. 34 years as doing it just for non-for-profit, just as for the good of our heart. No one's made money here. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time. So Justin's been key in that. But I would tell you, between Fitz and Vaughn, those are the 2 key guys side by side with me in this.
Lenny, so really good parlay, and to talk about, like you just mentioned, the Pokers have been well respected, have done a really good job in the Florida marketplace, but a really renewed and kind of different vision for the Pokers, starting in this year. of what the program currently is and what it's going to be. So, I think the base of the question is, where do you see your program 5 years from now? But maybe if it's even shorter, right? And in the short term, what are you guys trying to accomplish as this transition occurs? And then where do you see yourself 5 years from now, and what are your goals?
Yeah, from sometimes right now on the outside, it looks like we know what we're doing. And on the inside, we don't know which way is up at the moment, but we know what we're doing. It just kind of scrambled at the moment. But the vision 5 years from now is to be the dominant player in South Florida, is to control travel baseball in South Florida for the right reasons, to get back to what travel baseball was designed to do. And we're building the infrastructure. It all starts with people. You have to have the right people. If you don't have the right people, you got no chance.
Yep.
And right now, this is the best coaching staff that we have on board. We have pitching coaches. We've got a floating coach that goes between a couple teams. And the vision is to own 13 to 17U, the big field down here. We're getting ready to partner with a youth program. So we believe in August we're going to have around 21 teams. And then going into 2025, I think this thing's going to be between 25 and 30 teams. And that's only because we see the vision. We have other people calling us that know what we're doing, that want to be part of this. They know what we're up to. They know the name, and they want to be part of it. And again, it just goes back to what the program started with and what it was set out to provide. And that's never left. And people recognize that. But so we between the youth groups to the high school, eventually a facility, which we don't have yet, but that's on the radar. And then with a facility, hopefully an academy.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting, Lenny, because as much as the game evolves, both at the major league level, the college level, the youth level, at the end of the day, staying true to what you are and who you are is what a lot of times in many industries, not just ours, leads to success, right? And you guys, I think we're seeing that as a Diamond Allegiance with you guys as a program. I think the country that pays attention to this space is seeing that with you guys, that with a renewed vigor to really take over the area. You have the right people in place, and there's no doubt in our minds that the Pokers are going to be the preeminent team in that area. So we're super excited to be part of that journey with you. This is one of my favorite questions, Lenny. And again, you've got a grand landscape on this, but what's one thing through your time in this space that you've learned that you could go back in time and tell yourself 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? What would it be? What's that one thing you've learned, that piece of advice you give yourself?
I thought about this one too. I got into coaching. I was a baseball player in high school, but I could shoot a basketball. And my dream was to play college basketball. So I got into working with the basketball program at Ohio State for 4 years. We were number 2 in the country behind UNLV. We're number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. I went to University of Miami, worked for Leonard Hamilton as a grad assistant. So being in the college basketball world, I was, I guess, around more yelling and screaming of how to communicate because of the ladder environment and the intensity of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have gone back to my younger days and been able to communicate the same messages we were teaching, not change the message, but change how we delivered some things. I felt like we got after some kids in some unfair ways and things that, I don't know what it did to the kids, but some of it was embarrassing at times. And when we got to 13 and 14, especially 13U, I went back to me, and you'll recognize the names. Xavier. At 13U, I had Xavier Edwards, Tristan Casas, Mark Vientos, my son Caleb, Christian Scott, all on one 13U team.
Pretty good team.
The first 3 are big leaguers, and the next 2 are starting year in AAA.
Yeah.
But that team didn't come together until I went to Tristan's dad, Xavier's dad, and Mark's dad and apologized for a lot of this antics and behaviors that went on.
Mm.
And from that, we all kind of sat around and agreed the best we could do right now is do our best to move forward from today. And we left that in the past. I would say just learning how to communicate better with the kids, but delivering the same message would be probably the biggest thing I learned.
I love that. I think a lot of coaches, I know I did as a young coach, right? Like you go through that maturation and, you understand that, uh, we wouldn't be in this if we weren't alphas, right? If we didn't want to win, if we didn't want to compete, right? But understanding how to deliver that message to young kids is super, super important. And it's also super important that the future players of the generation are getting taught in that way. So again, really good tidbit there. I love it. So, um, we're going to switch hats here and we're going to go to kind of a fantasy world here, Lenny, where there's such thing as the commissioner of travel baseball. Okay. And you are it. You're the commissioner of travel baseball. What's one thing that you love? This is a new one. I'm going to throw this in there. So what's one thing you love about the way that travel baseball is currently going? And what's one thing that you would immediately change?
All right, let's go to the first thing I would change. That's easy.
Okay.
I Baseball would be played during baseball season.
Mm-hmm.
And again, my own kid never played a baseball game in the fall until he was 14 years old.
Mm.
And he's going to start the year in AAA. Him not playing a competitive baseball game in the fall did not cost him anything. We're not talking about not doing baseball stuff, not training baseball stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but playing competitive games after baseball. Let these youth, 12U and younger, go figure out how to be an athlete. Find out what you truly love. Get away from the competitiveness of baseball. And if you really love baseball, go practice, go train, go work on it in the off season. We did that from 8U to 12U. We shut down. We told our teams, our kids, if you want to go play somewhere else, go play somewhere else. Here's what our plan. Our plan is going to be: we're going to practice every weekend, one Saturday, one Sunday, and alternated so parents could have a life. They were optional, and there was going to be no hitting. This was all footwork, fundamentals, developing players to learn something new so they can come back next year better. And go play another sport. Maybe your movements, your athleticism will be better. Maybe you'll learn you'll love something else better.
Mm-hmm.
My younger son became a Division I golfer. He's going to turn pro because he found something else he loved. How do we know what these kids can really become if we don't give them the opportunity to do it? And now, don't get me wrong, we played 70 games between January through the end of August.
When it was
So we
baseball
played
season, it was baseball season, right?
during baseball season. We played a baseball. We played a schedule, and
Yep.
But that leads me to the other point of what I like about travel ball. And to me, it was finding the like-minded kids and putting them in an environment where they're pushed by their peers to play at a higher level that they never thought were possible. Because either you're going to figure it out and you're going to start working harder because it's motivating you, or you're going to go find something else to do. And that's okay.
Yep.
Because the sooner we get you into something that you're going to love, whether it's competitive in band, in cheerleading, in anything, go try and find a scholarship in any sport in college. It is as cutthroat as it is in baseball and basketball and football. It doesn't matter what the sport. And the sooner we can get people to find something that they love, the better off they're going to be in this world. So as the commissioner, you'd have to regulate who can come in and have a program and a team, all these teams. And then with the tournament aspect, I think this needs to get back to what it started out to be, is getting the older kids back into the college environment, going on college campuses, playing in a league, right? Where the regular season meant something, instead of chasing tournament rings and all this. Let's get back to putting these kids in front of the right eyes, letting a pitcher go out and work through a situation in over 40, 50 pitches and see what he can do in a 30 or 40 game league schedule. But what would be wrong if Power the Pokers, the Ostingers, South Charlotte Panthers, Team Elite, and all that formed a 15, 12 team league. And guess what? Yeah, we met for round robins in different areas, and you played 4 or 5 games a weekend against the different teams, and you had your league. And the coaches knew to come watch those top teams. And it could filter down from 17 to 16 to 15 without all this running around for the high cost of what travel sports became. It's not the programs that made it expensive. It just isn't.
Yeah. Well, obviously we all know more to come on that, right? Those are great points. And I think, at the Diamond Allegiance, what we really believe going into this year is, more travel doesn't equal more exposure, right? And, the more that we can get that word out and understanding exactly what you just explained, it's about baseball is a game that's meant to be played over time. That's first and foremost, right? Like you look at professional baseball, you look at college baseball, and it's a game that's played every day for the most part. And understanding that and giving kids the opportunity to fail and learn from those failures is super important. So those are when the commissioner job comes up, Lenny, I'm going to call you. Okay.
I got a lot of enemies, so we'll start chopping heads and programs real quick.
So last question here for you, little bit of a selfless plug, but obviously, why did you guys, what attracted you about the Diamond Allegiance through the conversations that we had? And then on top of that, where do you see the Diamond Allegiance going and in the next 5 years?
One, I was introduced to it by Tracy Smith, who coached my brother in college and became really good friends with over the last, handful of years. And he showed me this back, 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, when I went to see him in Arizona.
Yep.
And he was trying to explain it to me, and I kind of kept an eye on it from a distance. And then just seeing what you guys are doing, when Fitz and Vaughn showed up all together, unannounced, we all just kind of met at the same place, and they said, we need to get back to doing the pokers. We're the only ones that have ever done it right. It was like, all right, we'll roll this out and see where it goes. And honestly, I told them last year, and I think I sat with you in Jupiter, and I said, if we can't do this the right way for these families, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done with travel baseball because I got nothing else left. And I saw the Diamond Allegiance as a separator for us. What could we provide, right? Yes, it costs money. It costs a lot of money to have the best coaches and the best things. People go to eat at Ruth Chris for a certain reason, right? People go to certain restaurants and they go to do certain things for the experience and for the value. We could provide a value to the parents and the players and do what we've been doing, which is baseball, and take this thing to a whole nother level. To have the app, to be able to show the 8U through 13U kid that how we can help develop him without having a personal trainer. To take the middle school kid and start integrating his training program that he's going to now into this app. To take the high school kid and give him a way to have everything in there to communicate to colleges. The app controls all that. Well, we still do the baseball part of it, but now you add it, it's a separator for us to be able to add that value to our parents, to add in the diamond deals. Hey, yes, it's expensive, but here, we're going to help you save on hotels. We're going to provide more for you to help, reap some of the benefits of playing here. It's expensive. We want to help save money too. We're underpriced in the market still. We will never be the most expensive program in the market, but the Diamond Elite is just, it puts us on another level. It's a separator for us, and it helps us accomplish our goals as a program, is to continue to develop. It's all about developing, because these kids will never play at the next level if they don't get developed. They have zero chance. It goes for any sport or anything that they're doing. If they skip the development process, they have no chance.
Yep.
And the app provides that. The deals provide the savings. So to us, it was a path forward for the program to do this the right way, and an opportunity to bring it to more people. And the more we sat, the more we looked, the more we talked, we said, we got to give this thing a chance. Where if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out trying it this way. But now that we're jumping into it, we've been on calls, like I think continuously for the last 2 weeks with you guys, learning every facet, and we continue to get blown away with what can be done with it, the benefit we can bring to the parents and the players. It's going to allow us to achieve everything we want to achieve, which is developing players and sending them off to earn a degree through the game of baseball. It's just going to help us continue doing what we've been doing.
Yeah, well, appreciate that, Lenny, and we certainly appreciate you guys being a part of this, and the bigger vision for what travel ball is going to be. Getting back to the roots of development and providing real value for players and parents, real direction. You and your staff are the type of people that need to be elevated and need to be given, that pedestal. And, I hope that we can do that and we can continue to do that for you. So I'm looking forward to this journey, Lenny. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about your program. And we are honored to have the original Florida Pokers as members of the Diamond Allegiance.
We're looking forward to being with you guys for the long haul. So thanks for having us.
Thank you, Lenny.